Good afternoon. My name is John Treadwell, and I'm an administrative coordinator in the PWCS Office of Special Education. Today, I'm going to talk to you about transitioning to high school. A little bit about me. I have been with Prince William County Schools for 18 years. I began in the county working at Signal Hill Elementary School as a teacher of students with an intellectual disability and as a teacher of students with an emotional disability. From there, I transitioned to Woodbridge Middle School, where I worked for 9 years as a teacher of students with a learning disability, as well as I was the special education department chair. That is when I started to really learn a lot about transitioning to high school. As part of my job as the department chair, I would attend meetings where students and parents would talk about the expectations for high school and how to be prepared to begin that journey. After Woodbridge Middle School, I was the inaugural special education department chair at Colgan High School, where I worked for 3 years. So I attended numerous meetings with rising ninth graders, meeting with parents and students, and talking about that transition and some of the things to be looking out for and to be prepared for, and all the exciting opportunities that are available. After 3 years at Colgan High School, I transitioned to the Prince William County Schools Office of Special Education, where I was an administrative coordinator and continue to be an administrative coordinator, working with the Cluster 1 schools, which includes Freedom High School, Fred Lynn Middle School, and Ripon Middle School. So in this role, I also attend meetings where we discuss transitioning from middle school to high school. And in the fall, I am transitioning back to high school. I'm going to be the inaugural special education department chair at Gainesville High School, otherwise known as the 13th High School. So I'm sure I have met some of you who are listening to this recording. If you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email is treadj, treadj @pwcs.edu. If you have a question about transition, about high school, feel free to reach out. If I don't know the answer, I can steer you in the right direction. Okay, so preparing for ninth grade, it is very important to know the different diploma types in the state of Virginia. The first diploma type I'm going to discuss is the Applied Studies Diploma. It's important to know the limitations of an Applied Studies Diploma. The first limitation is that it is not equivalent to a standard diploma. It is also difficult to change to other diploma options once you are pursuing the Applied Studies Diploma. If you are pursuing an Applied Studies Diploma, a child may not qualify for higher education, federal financial aid, and some employment opportunities. One thing to realize is that students who are pursuing the Applied Studies Diploma are eligible to attend school through the age of 22. The Applied Studies Diploma is available only for children with disabilities. The Applied Studies Diploma, the requirement is that students complete the requirements of their IEP. And once again, students who are earning an Applied Studies Diploma do not meet the requirements for a standard or advanced studies diploma. So you can't get one, you only can get one diploma, you can't get two different types of diplomas. When should you start thinking about the diploma options? It's good to start thinking about them as soon as your child enters school, but since we're talking about the transition from middle school to high school, it's really important to really focus on the diploma options. It's important to choose the diploma option that best meets your goals for life after high school. It's important to have conversations, with your child about what they would like to do, whether they want to go to college, whether you're going to be looking at employment or trade school. You should plan to achieve the highest diploma option necessary to meet your goals. One of the important aspects of making the diploma decision is the testing options for high school. There are 3 different options. There's standards of learning tests with no accommodations, SOL tests with accommodations, and the Virginia Alternate Assessment Program, otherwise known as the VAP. So for students who are going to be achieving an applied studies diploma, they will be taking the Virginia Alternate Assessment Portfolio in high school. Students who are attempting to earn a standard diploma or an advanced diploma will be taking SOL tests either with accommodations or without accommodations. Key points regarding the curriculum is to understand the difference between modifications and accommodations. Modifications are when expectations are different from other children. The content or the task may be reduced in depth and complexity. If we are modifying the curriculum, then this student would participate in the VAP assessment, and the diploma option is the Applied Studies diploma. Accommodations, however, are when expectations are the same as other children, but there are adaptations that are made that support access to the general curriculum. An example would be extended time, reduced assignments to show mastery of the curriculum. Those are 2 really good examples. Students who receive accommodations participate in SOL tests, and they are eligible for all diplomas. So one question that I'm always asked is, if a student on the Virginia Alternate Assessment Portfolio, if they're taking that VAP assessment, can they receive accommodations? And the answer is yes. So accommodations can be for any student, but modifications are only for students who are attempting to earn an applied studies diploma. Key questions to ask the IEP team. How do decisions that we are making in elementary school and middle school about a child's participation in state assessments relate to the diploma options that will be available? As I stated previously, the diploma type is tied to the type of assessment that your child is taking. So it's very important to understand the differences in assessments and the differences in diplomas. What are the key factors to consider in making decisions about diploma options? To review, there are different expectations for each diploma type, and those decisions affect the different options that are available in post-secondary school. When is the latest point at which I will be able to change my mind about my child's diploma option? So diploma options are reviewed at every annual IEP meeting. If you have concern about your child's diploma option, as a parent, you have the right to request an IEP meeting to discuss any concerns that you have about your child's diploma. The key point I would like to make is that, if you're in constant communication with your child's case manager and school counselor, these conversations can happen regularly. So I encourage you to have open communication with the professionals at your child's school. Standard diploma. So in a standard diploma, a student must earn 22 credits, which include 4 English credits, 3 social studies credits, 3 mathematics credits, 3 science credits, 2 health and PE credits, 2 foreign language, fine arts, or career technical education. Notice that it does not have to be foreign language. That is one of the questions that I'm asked regularly. So it could be foreign language, but it doesn't necessarily have to be foreign language for the standard diploma. Economics and personal finance. Many students take that course in 10th or 11th grade. And then 4 electives of the student's choice. Students are expected to receive 6 verified credits. So a verified credit means that they pass the class and they pass the SOL. So in English, students in 11th grade take the reading and writing SOL. So that is 2 of the SOLs. 1 social studies SOL, 1 mathematics SOL, 1 science SOL, and then 1 other SOL. It could be, for example, if a student takes the algebra SOL, they could also take the geometry SOL, or another option would be a student would take the social studies SOL for World History 1, and they would also pass the SOL for US and Virginia history. So that would be that extra SOL that students need to graduate. Advanced diploma. There's 2 major differences for an advanced diploma. The one difference is 26 credits. So a student must earn 26 credits to graduate with an advanced diploma. Also, they must have 3 years of foreign language. So the courses completed to satisfy this requirement shall include 3 years of 1 language or 2 years of 2 languages. So you could take 2 years of sign language and 2 years of Spanish, or you can take 3 years of Spanish or 3 years of sign language. So that is the major difference, the foreign language requirement and the number of credits. One of the major things that I noticed when I transitioned from working at a middle school to a high school was the size of the high school. In a high school, there could be up to 2,500 to 3,000 students. There's 1 principal. There could be 4 to 6 assistant principals. So it's really important to really investigate who you should contact if you have concerns. 1 point of contact is the school counselor. Typically, students meet with a school counselor at the high school level in 8th grade before they transition to 9th grade. Each high school in Prince William County Schools has a transition specialist. The role of the transition specialist is to coordinate with the IEP team to identify services and to discuss available options for employment with students. A lot of times they will help families when they have questions about different agencies outside of the school district that can assist them with employment for their child. So I encourage you to identify who the transition specialist is at your child's high school once they start. The case manager. I know many high schools attempt to have a case manager stay with their child through high school. That's not always possible because teachers move or retire. So it's really important to develop a good relationship with your child's case manager. Typically, if you send them an email, they'll respond to you, within 24 hours, if possible. They can discuss day-to-day concerns that you may have. If you have to schedule an IEP meeting, the case manager would be that person that you would want to reach out to. Special education teachers who work with your child. So in many instances, there's a case manager, and then there's other special education teachers who work with your child. It's good to get to know those teachers also. So, if you have a question, you can send them an email or ask them a question, and they can also respond to you if you have a specific question about an English class or a math class. The assistant principal over special education. So each high school has an assistant principal who attends eligibility meetings for special education. and who is the point of contact for special education. So one of the things that I think is important to do is, as you're transitioning from middle to high school, is to identify who that assistant principal is. If you have a question, feel free to reach out to them. The special education department chair, in that role, the professional typically attends, a lot of the IEP meetings, offers support to families and teachers. It's a good point of contact if you have a concern. They're involved in scheduling. So that's one of the things that you can ask at the transition IEP meeting from middle to high school, who the special education department chair is at the high school where your child will attend. The SSD coordinator. So one of the things that I try to do when I attend IEP meetings for students that are transitioning from middle to high school is to talk about PSAT and SAT tests. So for students who are planning on taking those tests in 9th grade and 10th grade and 11th grade, accommodations do not automatically translate from an IEP to the PSAT and SAT. Either a parent or a school staff has to apply for accommodations. So if your child is taking the PSAT, for example, it may say extended time on their IEP, but that doesn't necessarily mean they would be offered extended time on those tests. So it's very important to, speak to the special education case manager or department chair, ask if they think that your child would qualify or whether you should apply for those accommodations. Some high schools, the school staff applies for accommodations, and in some situations, parents are able to apply for those accommodations. So I encourage you to bring up that conversation and talk to the staff about testing. Communicating with staff. So one of the biggest things that I can encourage you to do is be in communication with the staff at the high school. Email communication. Many times the first point of contact is the case manager. If you continue to have a concern, then you can reach out to the special education department chair or the assistant principal if you want to address a concern or if you have a question about your child's class or the IEP. Parent-teacher conferences versus IEP meetings. Many times, the school counseling department will help schedule parent-teacher conferences. For example, if you have a concern about, an English class, and maybe one of the assignments, or if your child's not completing work, you can have a parent-teacher conference, or you can request an IEP meeting, or you could request both. But just wanted to let you know that those different options are available to you. Touch base events. Pre-COVID, before we had the pandemic, each high school has typically once a quarter an opportunity for parents to come in and meet with their child's teachers. It's an informal event. The teachers typically are seated at tables, and parents can walk up and ask questions of any teacher relating to school. If you have concerns that you feel would warrant an IEP meeting, then I think that would be more appropriate to bring up at an IEP meeting and not at a touch base event. But that's one of the things that you can ask when you start communicating with your child's high school, is if they plan to have touch base events. A couple tips that I found to be very useful for students who are transitioning to high school. Number one, become involved in the school community. Aim for one or more activity per student. So high school, there's a lot of students. There's a lot of different activities. Most high schools that I'm aware of, and I know that Gainesville High School, where I'm going to be in the fall, we're going to have a club for students with disabilities to be able to interact and to participate in activities with their general education peers. So that's really important to me, and I know that's going to be important to the school that I'm transitioning to. I know that there's different dances and sports, so I encourage you to become involved in the school community. I think it's really important to aim for one or more activity per student. I know some students are involved in more activities, but the more that you can become involved as a parent, and the more that a child can become involved, they feel part of the school community. There's a lot of exciting events in high school, like pep rallies and sports and football games and dances. So the more you can be involved, the better. Ask questions is my second tip. There's never a silly question. I listed the people that you can reach out to if you have a question or concern. I encourage you to ask a lot of questions about the diploma type, about your child's classes, about how they're doing, especially during the pandemic. There's been a change in in our instructional methods. So I encourage you, as we transition back to in-person learning, to ask questions about what that will look like for next year and in future years. So communication is very important. And communication from parents and communication from school staff. My third tip is to communicate with the case manager and special education department chair to facilitate meetings and to address concerns. So your child's case manager and the special education department chair, they want to hear your concerns, and they want to facilitate meetings to address any concerns that you have. But the most important thing is that children are making progress. If you feel that changes need to be made to an IEP, feel free to reach out to the special education staff at your school. So I enjoyed talking to you today about transitioning from middle to high school. Once again, my name is John Treadwell. If you have any questions about anything that I said, if you need anything clarified, I encourage you to reach out to me. My email is treadj, TREADJ, @pwcs.edu.